Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. Out there, on the razor's edge between light and shadow, Firewatch Station hung like a coffin abandoned by the cosmos. Rusting metal groaned as stellar winds swept through, as if the station itself drew its final breaths. The air inside was thick, reeking of burnt oil, old copper, and dried sweat, clinging to the skin like a whispered curse. Narrow corridors flickered under dying lights, winking like demon eyes, leading into an abyss of darkness. Renn moved forward, his boots striking the steel floor, each echo a lonely heartbeat in the dead silence. He didn't want to linger. The Oath, his ship, lay dying at the dock, its hyperdrive core snuffed out after a desperate escape from bounty hunters through a nebula's jagged reefs. He needed a new core, and Firewatch was the only place in this void that might have one, if he was willing to pay the price. Renn was no hero. Just a pilot who survived the war against the Krenath machines, scarred by the days he lost his sister, Lira. She was dragged away during the final battle on Vega 9, her defiant eyes unyielding even in chains. That memory was a blade, slicing into him daily. Today, as he walked the icy corridors, unease gnawed at him. Instincts honed in dogfights screamed, "Something's wrong." His guide, Skov, a squat smuggler with shifty eyes and a voice like a dull knife, muttered about a special item, leading Renn through ever-narrowing turns. The air grew thick, swallowing sound, until they stopped at a warped steel door, scratched as if by desperate claws. Skov knocked thrice, and when it slid open, Renn's heart stuttered. This wasn't a warehouse. It was an underground auction, a ramshackle stage of scrap metal and frayed cables. A sparse crowd, humans, machines, hybrids, clustered around a central platform, bathed in harsh white light. Their faces carried the hunger of outlaws. At the platform's heart, in a flickering blue energy cage, stood her. She was unlike anyone Renn had seen. Tall and lithe, her skin shimmered with metallic sheen, woven from stardust. Her eyes blazed red, not with life but like embers smoldering in a forge. Silver-white hair fell to her shoulders, swaying as if stirred by an unseen breeze. Her hands were bound behind her, yet what gripped Renn was her stillness, not fear, not defiance, but a razor-sharp silence, like a blade poised to strike. The auctioneer's gravelly voice cut through, rough as sand on stone. "Lot 7! Krenath hybrid, origin unknown. Trained for combat, hyperdrive navigation, tactical analysis, and personal services." He smirked. The crowd snickered. "A rare find, not for the faint-hearted. Starting bid, 40,000 credits." Murmurs rippled. A cyborg pirate with a mechanical arm raised a hand, growling. 50. Another, face hidden under a hood, shouted. 60. Renn stood frozen, but Lira's memory surged, chained on a Krenath ship, her gaze unbroken. That fire had burned in him for years. He hadn't planned to act. He had no credits, no plan, only a dying ship and a past that wouldn't let go. But when the pirate leered, bidding 75, and stroking his gun as if she were already his, Renn's blood boiled. He stepped forward, the crowd parting like water, his voice ringing out before he could think. "I'll give everything I have." Silence fell. Skov spun, eyes wide. The auctioneer barked a laugh. "What V you got, pilot? A junk ship and empty promises?" Renn emptied his pack onto the floor. Tools from his rookie days, a last power cell, a dagger etched with Lira's name. He paused, breath catching, then slipped off the ring on his finger. A simple steel band, Lira's final gift before she vanished. He placed it atop the pile, gentle as a vow. "Take it or leave it," he said, voice low but solid as stone. "She doesn't belong to them." The crowd whispered. The pirate roared, lunging, but the auctioneer raised a hand. He eyed the pile, then Renn, his gaze sharp as a blade. A long moment passed, the universe holding its breath. "Sold!" he bellowed. The cage flickered out. She stepped forward, unhurried, unbowed. Her chains clattered to the floor, a broken song. She paused beside Renn, her red eyes meeting his, emotionless, yet probing, a question unspoken. They left in silence, through rusting corridors, flickering lights threatening to swallow them. Skov grumbled, but Renn didn't hear. He felt her gaze behind him, sharp, measuring his every heartbeat. At the dock, a shadow flitted past. Renn grabbed her arm, pulling her behind a crate. Mercenaries, marked with the pirate's insignia, stalked the halls. Skov had betrayed them, and now the station knew Renn had stolen its prize. "Can you run?" he whispered. She nodded, eyes flaring red. "Faster than you think." They sprinted for the Oath, gunfire erupting behind them. The Oath roared like a wounded beast as Renn tore it from the dock, engines howling, shuddering as if ready to crack. Red warning lights blinked across the cockpit, angry eyes signaling the hyperdrive core's death throes. Through the scratched view screen, Renn saw 3 bounty ships, sleek, cold metal arrows, swift as starving wolves, closing in from the void. Plasma cannons unleashed a meteor shower, one blast grazing the left wing, jolting the ship and slamming Renn into his seat. "Veyra, hold on!" he shouted over the blaring alarms. She appeared at the cockpit door, her slim frame steady as forged steel. Without a word, she lunged for the co-pilot's console, her metallic fingers dancing like wind over dunes. "Your defenses are paper-thin," she said, voice sharp yet calm, as if reading poetry instead of facing death. "Let me." Renn opened his mouth to argue, but before he could, Veyra plugged a thin filament from her wrist into the console. Her red eyes flared like a furnace, data streaming through them like a silver river. The Oath shuddered, engines roaring, then surged forward like an arrow loosed from a bow. Plasma bolts missed by meters, the ship spinning, dodging with a life of its own. Jamming systems kicked in, blinding enemy sensors, leaving them lost in the dark. Renn stared, awestruck. She wasn't just a prisoner, not just a Krenath hybrid. She was a living interface, fused with machinery as naturally as breathing, as blood in veins. "You did it," he whispered, voice drowned by the engine's whine. The moment shattered with a piercing screech tearing through the ship. Veyra froze, clutching her chest, the metallic sheen of her skin dimming like a star behind clouds. She collapsed, breaths ragged. "They activated it," she gasped, voice brittle as a snapped blade. "The beacon, inside me." Renn knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders, feeling the cold metal beneath his fingers. "What beacon? Talk, Veyra!" She struggled to breathe, eyes fading but sharp as knives. "Krenath planted it. A tiny bomb, to track me. To kill me if I ran." Renn cursed, the word a bullet. The hunters were using the beacon to lock on, and if it detonated, the Oath would be cosmic dust, taking them with it. No time. He half-carried her through the narrow corridor to the medbay, a cramped corner reeking of antiseptic and scorched metal, lit by flickering lamps. He laid her on the table, hands trembling as he grabbed an energy scalpel, its blue blade glowing like his resolve. "You've got to guide me," Renn said, voice hard but laced with fear. Veyra's eyes held onto their light. "Cut left of my chest," she whispered. "Small. It's like a gem blinking red. Be precise, one mistake I blow you die." Renn inhaled, chest heavy as stone. Lira's memory flooded back, sharp as a stab. He saw her, chipped by Krenath, eyes vacant as they dragged her away on Vega 9. His hands had been empty, useless, as their ship vanished into the dark. Not this time. Not with Veyra. Under the dim light, he cut. The scalpel traced a thin line, metallic blood, glimmering like a miniature galaxy, seeping out. Veyra clenched her jaw silent, but her fingers dug into the table, leaving scratches. Renn stayed steady, heart pounding like war drums. He found the gem, a tiny, pulsing red eye nestled in her circuits. With the care of plucking a star from the sky, he pried it free and hurled it into the incinerator. It vanished in a green flash, its final hiss like a curse undone. Veyra exhaled, alive. She sat up slowly, breath weak, but her skin sheen returned, like stars breaking through clouds. "Thank you," she rasped, sincere. Renn wiped sweat from his brow. "You owe me answers," he said, light but firm, like a man who'd just walked the edge of death. She nodded, eyes softening, like embers under ash. Krenath built me to fight, she began, voice low as desert wind. I'm an interface, half human, half machine. They wanted a weapon, a tool, nothing more. But I feel. I cry, I fear, I dream. They called it a flaw. I escape, but they planted that beacon to ensure I'd never be free. Renn listened, seeing Lira in her eyes, not in likeness, but in their shared chains, their stolen selves. I lost my sister to them, he said, voice rough, words dredged from deep within. Lira. They chipped her, turned her into something else. I couldn't save her. Silence settled, not heavy, but a fragile bridge between souls. Veyra's gaze asked, will you keep going, despite the pain? Renn had no answer, but he knew he couldn't stop. Alarm screamed, shattering the moment. The hunters were still on them, Veyra's decoy signal only a brief reprieve. Renn dove into the pilot's seat, hands gripping the controls, steering the Oath through a dense nebula, its dust sparkling like a million watching eyes. A plasma hit rocked the tail, smoke rising, the stench of burning metal sharp. Veyra, weak, staggered to the co-pilot's station. Course failing, she said, breaths labored but steady. Give me a minute. Her fingers danced, coaxing the ship as if it were alive. She murmured to it, and the course stabilized, humming like a new heartbeat. The Oath surged, a silver arrow piercing the nebula, leaving the hunters blinded in its wake. They landed on a desolate planet, in a vast cave aglow with purple crystals. Cold air bit through Renn's jacket, but the silence felt alive, as if the universe paused to listen. He checked the ship, relieved the hunters had lost them. Then, a faint signal pulsed from the cave's depths, not Krenath, but an ancient civilization's whisper, a call from the past. Veyra stood beside him, eyes reflecting the crystals like fire. This isn't a refuge, she said, voice low but certain. It's a treasure. Renn met her gaze, sensing a door opening, not to safety, but to a perilous new path. Her fierce, living eyes convinced him they'd face it together. The cave shimmered like the heart of a shattered star, purple crystals hanging from stone walls, casting eerie light across the Oath. Each of Renn's steps echoed crisply on the rock floor, mingling with the faint hiss of icy air seeping through his worn pilot's coat. Veyra moved beside him, her metallic frame gliding like a ghost, her red eyes burning, as if hearing something in the silence. The cave wasn't just stone and light, it pulsed, whispering buried secrets, an ancient song the cosmos had forgotten. They ventured deeper, through twisting natural corridors where crystals grew like skeletal forests, sharp and beautiful. Renn gripped his gun, pilot's instincts sensing an unseen threat. It's too quiet, he muttered, voice echoing in the vast space. Veyra paused, her metallic hand brushing a crystal, purple light flaring under her touch. Not quiet, she said, voice low as desert wind. It's speaking. Can't you hear? Renn glanced at her, unsure if she meant it literally or felt something beyond his grasp. Before he could ask, they reached a massive chamber where a colossal machine loomed, gleaming like a trapped galaxy. Concentric rings spun slowly, humming like a sleeping giant's heartbeat. Strange runes adorned its surface, flowing like rivers of light, and at its core, a faint purple energy pulsed, the beating heart of a dead civilization. Veyra approached without hesitation, her hand touching the cold metal. A flash erupted, and a voice filled the cave, not mechanical, but warm, like a long-lost mother, gentle yet commanding. I am Krenath, keeper of memory, it said, the air trembling with each word. Prove your worth, seekers. Renn flinched, gun raised, scanning for danger. Veyra's hand stopped him, her eyes locked on the core. It's not attacking, she said, certain. It's a test. Krenath fell silent, as if weighing their souls. Then it spoke again, soft but sharp as a blade. Share your most painful memory. Only truth opens the gate. Renn's chest tightened, the cave pressing in. He looked at Veyra, saw her nod, her gaze saying, we have to. He stepped to the core, breathing deep, memory cutting like a knife. Lira, he began, voice breaking. My sister. The last battle on Vega 9. I saw them take her. Chained, chipped, but her eyes, they said, don't give up, Renn. I ran, but their ship was faster. I kept her ring. He touched the steel band, eyes stinging. Every night I wonder, if I'd been quicker, stronger, would she still be here? Silence answered, only the machine's hum replying. Renn bowed his head, feeling the old scar torn open. Veyra stepped forward, her metallic skin glinting purple. Her voice trembled, words dredged from deep within. The day they called me a flaw, she said, eyes dimming with memory. Krenath made me to kill, to analyze, to obey. But I wept at a falling star. I laughed when wine touched my skin. They stared cold, like I was a broken tool. They chained me, threw me into darkness, said I wasn't worthy of being their weapon. She paused, fists clenched, nails scratching her skin. I'm not a machine. But they wanted me to believe I was. Her words hung. A stone dropped into a deep lake. Krenath paused, then the machine blazed, purple light flooding the chamber. A hologram appeared, mapping Krenath's network, thousands of warships, stations, control cores, a web spanning the galaxy. Krenath's voice returned, gentle but resolute. Aelith technology can erase your hunter's signal interface. It can destroy Krenath. But it will broadcast to every enemy in the stars. Will you pay the price? Renn met Veyra's gaze, her eyes flickering like fire and wind. We need time to think, he said, voice steady. Time wasn't theirs. An explosion shook the cave, crystal dust falling like purple snow, light fracturing. Renn drew his gun, pulling Veyra behind a crystal pillar, heart pounding like war drums. Through the haze, a massive figure emerged, Krenath, a Krenath general, his metal body gleaming, blue eyes sharp as blades. His soldiers, war machines with plasma cannons, flanked him. His voice cut through, cold as snapping steel. Wayward child. Did you think you could escape me? Renn shielded Veyra, gun aimed. She's not yours. Veyra raised a hand, a shimmering energy shield sparking from her wrist, blocking the first plasma barrage. Krenath laughed, a sound like breaking rock. He signaled, and his soldiers attacked, plasma turning the cave into a battlefield. Crystals shattered, purple light bleeding, reflecting off Veyra's skin. Renn gunned down 2 drones, energy bolts piercing armor, but a blast nearly killed him, throwing him against stone. Veyra lunged, hacking a drone's systems, her eyes blazing as it self-destructed in blue sparks. But she faltered, her old wounds slowing her. They retreated into the archive, using crystals for cover. Plasma tore the air, the stench of scorched metal sharp. Renn pulled Veyra down, dodging an explosion that shattered rock. Amid the chaos, he saw it. Veyra wasn't just fighting to survive. She fought for him, for herself, for something bigger than Krenath's code. You don't need to prove anything, he yelled over the din. Just live, Veyra! Her eyes flashed, warm as fire finding air. I'm trying, she said, voice rough but fierce. They found a narrow exit behind shattered crystal. Renn led, gun ready, as Veyra hacked the cave's systems, triggering ancient Aelith traps, purple energy beams slicing drones in half. They reached a small chamber housing an old Aelith ship, its hull dusty but gleaming. Renn jumped into the pilot's seat, hands fumbling over alien controls, praying. The engines roared, a beast waking from millennia. They called it Firelight, as Veyra named it, and it cut through the dark like a blade. Crystals collapsed behind, burying Krenath's forces in purple dust. The oath was lost, but Firelight soared. In the cockpit, Veyra checked systems, her metallic hands glowing purple. She froze, eyes wide. A signal, she whispered. From Krenath. Renn's heart raced. She played it, and Krenath's icy voice filled the air. I know what you want, Renn. Lira. She's on Lira. Renn's fists clenched, nails biting skin. Lira alive? Or a trap, another blade waiting to cut? He looked at Veyra, her gaze steady, a silent vow, whatever it is, I'm with you. In the purple-lit cave, Renn stood before the oath, hand brushing its scarred hull, like touching a dying friend. The ship had carried him through war, through grief, now silent among crystals. Thank you, he whispered, voice breaking, eyes burning. Veyra stood near, eyes soft. The new ship will take us to Lira, she said, gesturing to the gleaming Aelith craft. Renn nodded, heart heavy, but the crystal's purple glow whispered, this isn't the end. They walked away, leaving the oath in shadow. The oath lay abandoned in the cave, its core drained, a cold husk amid purple crystals. Renn and Veyra had claimed the ancient Aelith ship, its metallic hull gleaming like a miniature galaxy. They named it Firelight, for the purple glow of crystal fragments lingering in the cockpit, a defiant flame guiding them through the dark. The cramped control room smelled of old metal and scorched energy, but Renn felt a spark of life as his hands gripped the controls. They set course for Lira, the planet Krenath had named, a former colony, now a Krenath fortress, where Lira might wait, or a trap lay coiled. The journey began in silence, only the low hum of Firelight's engines pulsing like a steady heart. Renn sat at the helm, eyes scanning the screens, but his mind drifted to Vega 9, days running with Lira through silver fields under twin moons. Veyra sat beside him, her metallic skin catching the purple light, red eyes quietly watching. She said nothing, but her presence anchored him, keeping him from drowning in memory. The universe granted no reprieve. A shrill alarm tore through the cockpit, red lights flashing like spilled blood. Firelight plunged into a starstorm, where cosmic energies churned like a raging sea, purple and blue plasma waves crashing in towering arcs. The ship bucked wildly, gripped by an unseen fist. Renn clenched the controls, knuckles white, sweat streaking his face, soaking his worn pilot's coat. "We'll be torn apart if we don't break free!" he shouted, voice cutting through the engine's roar and the storm's thunder. Veyra lunged for the co-pilot's seat, her metallic hands plugging into the ship's systems, moving like a maestro over strings. "I'm trying!" she snapped, eyes blazing with data, a constellation racing through her gaze. She tweaked the core, fingers ablur, murmuring to the ship as if it lived. A massive plasma wave struck the right wing, black smoke curling from the console, the stench of burning sharp. Firelight lurched, but Veyra held the course steady, threading the ship through the wave, seconds from oblivion. Renn watched her, heart pounding, not just from the storm, but from her fire. She wasn't just an interface. She was a blaze, burning bright on the edge of death. "You did it!" he rasped, voice lost in the ship's screech. Amid the chaos, a faint signal flickered on the screen, a dying light in the dark. Veyra frowned, fingers coaxing it clear. "It's encrypted," she said, voice low. "A trace from Lira." Renn froze, air sucked from his chest. He activated the signal, and a voice emerged, weak yet sharp, cutting through time. "Renn, if you hear this, I'm not dead. They're holding me on Lira. Don't come. It's too dangerous." Lira's voice, once bright as bells on Vega 9's fields, now a pained whisper. Renn's fists tightened, nails biting skin, memories flooding like a breached dam. He saw her, small but fierce, hugging him in wartime, promising they'd stay together. "She's alive," he murmured, voice trembling like leaves in wind. Veyra's eyes softened, embers under ash. "Or it's a trap," she said, not judging, just cold truth. He nodded, but his gaze stayed locked on the screen, the signal a lifeline to Lira. "Either way, I have to know." The storm eased, but Firelight was battered, right wing scorched, core groaning like a wounded beast. They landed on a derelict space station, a heap of twisted metal drifting in the void, a forgotten dream's corpse. The air reeked of stale oil and rust, clinging to skin. Renn checked the ship, cursing as the core showed hours of life left. A sharp clank echoed from the shadows. Renn drew his gun, pulling Veyra behind him. An old man stepped forward, white hair a tangle, eyes glinting like a veteran of 100 wars. "Easy, pilot," he rasped, voice rough as gravel. "I'm Torv. Ship repairs my trade, but it ain't free." Renn lowered his weapon, wary. "We need to fly. This ship, it's all we've got." Torv eyed Firelight, then Veyra, his gaze sharp as he noted her metallic skin. "Fine ship," he said. "But I want a Aelith crystal." One shard, from your hold. Renn hesitated. The crystals powered Firelight. Losing one weakened them, made them prey. He glanced at Veyra, felt her hand on his shoulder, light but firm. We need to fly, she said, voice steady. To Lira. Renn nodded, chest heavy. He pried a small crystal from the cockpit, its purple glow pulsing like a fallen star. Torv took it, his gap-toothed grin creasing his face, and set to work. Hammers and sparks rang out, a metal heart beating. As they waited, Torv's tale chilled Renn. Lira's no mere fortress, he said, hands still working. Krenath built it to forge armies, thousands of hybrids like your girl. They don't just cage them. They reprogram, strip memories, emotions. I saw one like her, no longer a person, just a husk. Veyra stood silent, but her fists clenched, nails scratching her skin. Renn saw her eyes flicker, fire facing frost. He wanted to promise she'd never become that, but words stuck. Instead, he brushed her hand, a small gesture, enough for her to meet his gaze, her eyes softening, a vow unspoken. Torv finished, Firelight humming, ready to soar. As they prepared to leave, he whispered, voice like desert wind. Careful, pilot. Lira's not just death. It's where hope goes to choke. Renn nodded, sensing a new shadow, not just Krenath, but his own past closing in. Lira was a dead world, its surface cracked like a beast's hide, riddled with craters and jagged Krenath towers piercing the sky like monstrous spines. A sickly green-gray light filtered through a dusty atmosphere, draining life from all it touched. Firelight landed covertly in a crater's shadow, engines wheezing like a warrior's last gasp. Renn checked his gear, energy pistol, plasma grenades, a Aelith hacking device glowing purple. Veyra stood beside him, her metallic sheen dulled under the crater's gloom, but her red eyes burned, a flame that refused to die. They left the ship, moving over razor-sharp rubble, cold air-biting skin, carrying scents of metal and ash. Renn led, pistol steady, steps light but resolute, a hunter in the dark. Veyra followed, her metallic fingers scanning for Krenath's signals. They reached the fortress's outer wall, a black steel monolith, pulsing with blue energy veins, hissing like a demon's whisper. Veyra knelt, plugging her circuits into a hidden panel. Her eyes flared, data streaming like a silver river. Cameras, drone guards, she murmured. I can disable them, but not for long. A soft click sounded, and the steel door slid open, revealing a pitch-black corridor, blue light flickering like a machine's pulse. They slipped inside, darkness swallowing them, leaving only Renn's boots and Veyra's faint breaths. The corridor descended, past chambers of groaning machines and cables like glowing webs. Renn's chest tightened, not from the stifling air but from Lyra's memory, her eyes, her plea, don't come. But he was here, and there was no turning back. They entered a vast chamber, where hundreds of energy cages floated, glowing faintly blue. Each held a hybrid, their metallic bodies like Veyra's, but their eyes were hollow, dolls without souls. Renn froze, heart racing, seeing Lira in every vacant face. He gripped Veyra's hand, her metallic warmth an anchor in the nightmare. We'll free them, he whispered, voice rough but certain. She nodded, eyes flickering with worry, fire facing wind. If there's time, she replied, soft but heavy. They pressed on, through narrower halls, the machine's groans growing louder, a fortress heartbeat. Veyra hacked systems, paralyzing drones, but each step felt like walking a blade's edge. At last, they reached a frigid chamber deep within, reeking of scorched metal and antiseptic. At its center, in a shimmering blue cage, was Lira. But she wasn't his Lira. Her body was half metal, her left arm a sleek steel slab, her face pale, eyes empty as a starless sky. She stood motionless, a cursed statue. Renn rushed forward, shouting her name, voice shattering like glass. Lira! It's me! But she didn't stir, only the cages hum mocking him. A cold, metallic voice sliced the dark. Right on time. Renn spun, pistol aimed. Krenath emerged, towering like a machine of death, blue eyes gleaming like honed blades. His black armor clinked, each step vibrating the steel floor. She's the perfect weapon, he said, voice like breaking stone. And you brought the key, Veyra. Renn's blood surged, but before he could fire, Krenath soldiers materialized from the shadows, plasma rifles glowing, blocking all exits. Veyra stepped before him, her metallic hands sparking energy, a living shield. He wants me, she said, voice sharp but steady. He won't have me. Krenath's laugh was steel snapping. You're not human, Veyra. You're my interface, the key to controlling every cyborg here, including her. He pointed at Lira, eyes cutting like ice. Renn roared, firing at the nearest soldier, the bolt piercing armor, sparks flying. Veyra darted to a console, plugging in, her eyes blazing with data. She hacked the fortress, turning drones against each other, explosions flaring blue. But Krenath was relentless. He advanced, each step a hammer, and punched Renn, sending him crashing into a wall, blood streaking his face, stinging his eyes. Veyra screamed, unleashing an energy pulse, but Krenath blocked it, slamming her into a steel pillar. She crumpled, breaths ragged. Lira stood in her cage, unmoving, a forgotten puppet, her blank gaze stabbing Renn's heart. He crawled up, blood dripping, each breath fire in his chest. Veyra, don't let him win! He yelled, voice raw, all his will poured into it. Her eyes flared, fire finding air. She staggered up, plugging into the fortress's mainframe, data racing like a waterfall. A gift for you, Krenath, she hissed, cold as ice, sharp as steel. The system quaked, steel floors groaning, blue lights flickering wildly. Cages across the fortress opened, metal clanging like a broken symphony. The hybrids awoke, their eyes no longer empty but burning with rage, souls unchained. They tore into Krenath soldiers, metallic claws ripping armor, roars echoing like crashing waves. Krenath bellowed, blue eyes blazing, charging Veyra. Renn threw a plasma grenade, the blast forcing him back, smoke swallowing the room. He ran to Lira's cage, smashing the controls, the energy field collapsing. He pulled her out, her body cold as steel, but she was Lira, his sister. Go! Veyra shouted, still plugged in, holding the chaos at bay. Renn supported Lira, racing through corridors, alarms screaming like demons. Veyra followed, metallic blood leaking from her shoulder, but she didn't falter. They reached Firelight, engines roaring as Renn launched, leaving the fortress in a storm of plasma and smoke. In the void, Renn looked at Lira, slumped on the floor, and felt an invisible blade twist. She was here, but was she still his Lira? Firelight's medbay was cramped, green lights flickering like a fading pulse, the air thick with antiseptic and scorched metal. Lira lay on a cold steel table, her half-metal body still, eyes empty as a starless void, reflecting purple glints from an aelith crystal on the wall. Renn sat beside her, clutching her metallic hand, its chill biting but still Lira's, his sister, lost on Vega 9, now a ghost of the past. I found you, he whispered, voice rough as gravel. I won't leave you again. Veyra stood in the corner, her metallic fingers scanning an old medical device, red eyes glowing with data. She paused, gaze flickering, fire facing frost. Krenath chipped her, she said, voice low but cutting. Like thousands of hybrids on Lara. I can erase it, but... She met Renn's eyes, her gaze softening, heavy with worry. It'll hurt. And she might not be the Lira you remember. Renn's chest tightened, air draining away. He saw Lira in silver fields, her laugh like bells, eyes bright as stars. Now she was here, half machine, a silent question, is she still her? He inhaled, eyes burning, but his voice was stone. Try. She deserves a chance. Veyra nodded, stepping to the table, her hands moving like a musician's. She plugged into a port on Lira's metal shoulder, data streaming like a silver river, mirrored on her skin. The machine groaned, purple light pulsing frantically. Lira twitched, moaning, her metal arms slamming the table, denting it. Renn gripped her hand, heart racing, whispering, Lira, you can do this. Stay with me. Veyra gritted her teeth, eyes blazing like a forge, fingers racing as if battling Krenath's darkness itself. A shrill screech erupted from the device, and Lira screamed, her pain tearing the small space. Renn held tighter, tears streaking his face, eyes locked on her. Then, like a miracle, her body stilled, breaths evening, and her eyes opened. "Renn?" she whispered, voice faint as desert wind, but hers, Lira, not a machine. Renn hugged her, tears falling on her cold shoulder. "I'm here," he said, voice breaking, like reclaiming a lost piece of his soul. Lira tried to smile, but her eyes held shadows, scars of years and chains. In the quiet of the med bay, with Renn still reeling from the moment, Lira turned her gaze to Veyra. The air felt heavy, charged with unspoken weight. "I felt it, you know?" Lira said softly, her voice a fragile thread, fingers tightening on the table's edge. "That chip, like a blade in my mind, carving away pieces of me. But even then, I heard Renn's voice, faint, like a star I couldn't reach." Veyra paused, her red eyes dimming, softening. "I thought I was a mistake once," she replied, voice low, rough. "But mistakes are why we're alive." Lyra's lips twitched, a faint smile. "Thank you, for giving me back to myself." The moment broke as an urgent signal blared from the cockpit. Veyra rushed out, fingers flying over the controls, eyes widening as she activated it. Krenath's voice cut through, cold as snapping steel. "You freed them, but I still have an army. Lira was just the start. The galaxy will be mine." Renn stood, blood boiling. He met Veyra's gaze, not fear, but resolve, a fire ready to burn. "He's building a bigger army," she said, voice steady. "We have to stop him." They charted a course for a hidden Krenath station, home to the cyborg army's control core. Firelight soared through the void, purple crystal light bathing the cockpit, a reminder of hope. Lira sat beside Renn, silent, her metal hand gripping the seat, as if reclaiming herself. But the universe never rested. An explosion rocked the ship, red alarms screaming, signaling a Krenath ambush. The view screen showed 4 metal spears, plasma cannons blazing like meteor showers. Renn yanked the controls, firelight spinning, dodging a barrage, but a hit struck the tail, smoke billowing, the stench of burning circuits sharp. "Veyra, do something!" Renn shouted, hands pale on the yoke. She plugged in, eyes blazing with data. "I'm hacking them!" she snapped, voice like a blade. She breached one enemy ship, making it fire on its ally, an explosion flaring in the dark. But the foes were many, plasma tearing space, each shot a knife poised to gut Firelight. Lira, though frail, rose, grabbing an energy rifle. "I won't let them take me again," she said, voice firm, steel flashing in shadow. She fired through a side port, downing a Krenath drone, sparks bursting like fireworks. Renn glanced at her, heart swelling. His Lira was back, not whole, but enough to fight. Veyra raised a shield, blocking a volley, but her breaths grew heavy, her Lira wounds slowing her. Renn steered through a dust cloud, using it as cover to escape. Firelight shuddered, engines groaning, but they shook the hunters, landing on an ice planet where snow fell like stardust, glinting under a distant sun. They touched down near a cliff, Firelight's engines fading like a tired breath. Renn checked the damage, cursing. The core had hours left. Stepping out, he saw a massive shape in the snow, an ancient temple, carved with Aelith runes, glowing like a trapped galaxy in stone. Veyra approached, her metallic hand touching the icy wall. Purple light flared, and alien memories flooded her, a river breaking its dam. She saw a radiant civilization, cities floating among stars, ships of light, then Krenath's shadow, consuming all. She staggered, eyes wide, breath short. "I'm not just an interface," she whispered, voice trembling but sure, as if finding a piece of herself. "I carry their memories." Renn stood beside her, seeing her eyes, not just fire, but a galaxy waking. Lira took his hand, light but firm, saying without words that they'd face it all, together. The ancient Aelith temple loomed through the snow, its stone walls etched with runes that glowed like a galaxy trapped in rock, purple light piercing the icy chill. Inside, the air was heavy with the scent of ancient metal and frost that bit into bone. Renn, Veyra, and Lira worked under dim light, hands smeared with oil and stone dust, striving to activate the Aelith arsenal, devices shimmering like fallen stars, promising the power to disable Krenath's control core. The cost was steep, draining Firelight's energy, risking turning their ship into a lifeless husk on this frozen world. Renn knelt by the ship's core, tools clinking against circuits, the metallic ring sharp in the quiet. Lira sat nearby, her metal arm quietly splicing a cable, her eyes, though alive again, still shadowed by years of captivity. Veyra stood at a Aelith console, her metallic fingers tracing ancient runes, red eyes flaring each time she unraveled a secret. They worked in silence, broken only by the snow's hiss outside and the machine's low hum. In a moment's pause, Lira looked up, her voice rough as desert wind. "They tried to make me forget you," she said, eyes on Renn, purple light glinting like unshed tears. "Krenath's chip erased my memories piece by piece. But when I closed my eyes, I saw you, on Vega 9's fields, promising to keep me safe. You were why I survived, Renn, even when they tried to make me a machine." Renn froze, his tool clattering to the floor. He saw her, the girl who chased him through silver grass, now a scarred soul in steel. "I'm sorry," he whispered, voice breaking. "I should have found you sooner." Lira shook her head, her metal hand brushing his, light but sure. "You're here now. That's enough." Veyra turned, her metallic skin catching the purple glow. Her eyes softened, embers under ash. "You gave me a reason to live," she said, voice quiet but firm, like a vow. "Not just to run, but to fight, for myself, for them." She gestured to the unseen thousands, hybrids chained by Krenath. Renn met her gaze, feeling a thread binding them, not just allies, but souls who'd crossed death's edge together. He wanted to speak, but an explosion rocked the temple, stone dust falling like rain, purple light fracturing. Renn drew his pistol, pulling Lira behind a pillar. Veyra raised a hand, a shimmering energy shield flaring, but her eyes sharpened, fire ready to blaze. Through snow and smoke, Krenath emerged, towering like a metal reaper, blue eyes gleaming like blades. Behind him marched a cyborg army, dozens of metallic figures with lifeless red eyes, plasma weapons glowing in the dark. "You can't hide." Krenath's voice cut through, cold as cracking ice. "Veyra, you're mine." Krenath stood in the shadows, his blue eyes flickering, but a crack showed, a fleeting tremor, like light through broken armor. "You think I chose this interface?" he said, voice low, jagged, betraying a hint of fracture. "Krenath stole the man I was, fused steel to my bones, made me their blade. But you're my way out. Control you, and I'm no longer their slave." His fist clenched, eyes hardening. "I'll be their master." The temple became a battlefield. Plasma tore the air, shattering ice and stone, purple light bleeding like wounds. Renn gunned down a cyborg, his bolt piercing armor, sparks flaring. Lira hurled a grenade, the blast toppling 3 foes, but her breath grew heavy, her metal body unaccustomed to war. Veyra darted to a console, plugging in, her eyes blazing as she hacked Krenath's army. Data raced like a torrent, and several cyborgs froze, their eyes dimming, turning on their allies in chaos. But Krenath pressed on, each step a hammer on stone, his energy blade glowing blue, sharp as his gaze. He lunged at Veyra, striking. She dodged, but the blade grazed her shoulder, metallic blood spilling, glinting like a fallen galaxy. She fell, breaths ragged, but her hand clung to the console. "Veyra!" Renn shouted, firing at Krenath, bolts barely slowing him, his armor gleaming inviolable. Lira threw another grenade, the explosion forcing Krenath back, smoke swallowing him. Renn ran to Veyra, lifting her, her blood staining his jacket, cold as snow. "Don't give up," he whispered, voice trembling but fierce. Her eyes flickered, a faint smile breaking through. "I'll end him," she rasped, each word draining her. She plugged into the Aelith arsenal, her body shaking as purple energy surged through her, a river of light. Krenath roared, charging again, but Veyra was ready. She unleashed a pulse, a purple wave erupting from the arsenal, sweeping the temple like a tidal surge. It struck Krenath, his blue eyes flaring once before fading, his metal body collapsing, shattering like stone under a sledge. His cyborgs halted, red eyes dimming, falling like puppets with cut strings. But Veyra fell too, her metallic sheen fading, a star burning out. Renn knelt beside her, clutching her hand, feeling the last warmth in her fingers. "No!" he cried, voice splintering, as if he could pull her back from death. "You can't leave me, Veyra!" Her eyes glowed faintly, fire refusing to die. "I chose freedom," she whispered, voice soft as wind. "For me. For them." Her smile was gentle, a falling star, then her light faded, leaving Renn and Lira in icy silence. Lira knelt beside him, her metal hand on his shoulder, wordless, her eyes sharing his grief. The temple stood quiet, only the snows whisper outside, filling the void Veyra left. Firelight tore through the void, the ice planet fading behind a veil of snow, but Veyra's loss weighed heavy in the cockpit. Renn sat at the helm, eyes blurred, clutching a aelith crystal as if it held a piece of her. Lira sat beside him, silent, her metal arm gripping tight, as if loosening would lose another soul. "She wanted us to live," she whispered, voice quivering but firm. Renn nodded, seeking a light in the Nebula, a small green planet where grass might grow, where they could begin again. The ship landed, carrying pain, but also hope. The green planet lay serene under the nebula's shadow, starlight falling like silver rain, glinting on swaying silver grass. Firelight settled on a low hill, its engines sighing before falling silent, a warrior finding rest. Renn stood by the ship, hand brushing its scarred hull, purple crystal lights still flickering inside, a reminder of what they'd lost and won. Renn and Lira built a simple house on the hill, using wood from nearby forests and steel salvaged from Firelight. The slanted roof rattled in the wind, but it stood firm, a promise they wouldn't break. They planted trees around it, small saplings with silver leaves, gleaming under starlight, like new souls born from earth. The air carried scents of fresh grass and damp soil, a far cry from plasma smoke and scorched metal. Each dawn, Renn woke before sunrise, the sky a black canvas studded with stars. He stood on the porch, holding Lira's steel ring, kept from Vega 9, now a memory of her and Veyra. He looked skyward, seeing Veyra in the constellations, red eyes like a forge, voice sharp yet soft, her final smile a falling star as she chose freedom. "You did it," he whispered, voice blending with the breeze, as if she might hear from some distant place. Lira, slowly healing, stepped from the house, her metal arm glinting in the early light. She was no longer the girl of silver fields, but her eyes held warmth, though scarred by Krenath's chains. She stood beside Renn, gripping his hand, light but steady, an anchor in the cold. "She gave us a chance," she said, voice rough, gazing upward, as if seeing Veyra too. "Don't waste it, Renn." He nodded, her words a gentle blade through his heart's ice. "I won't," he said, voice low but solid, a new oath. They worked, not just for themselves but for others, hybrids freed from Lira, souls Krenath had bound, now drawn to the green planet like moths to a flame. Renn and Lira helped them build homes, shared seeds, taught them to live unafraid. A small community grew, wooden houses rising in the fields, children's laughter, human and hybrid, ringing like a song Renn hadn't heard since the war. One evening, as starlight fell, Renn sat in Firelight's old cockpit, now a memorial by the house. He checked the systems, a pilot's habit, though the ship would never fly again. A faint signal blinked, weak as a dying ember. He activated it, heart racing, and purple aelith light flared. It was Veyra's data, saved in Firelight before her sacrifice, not her, no red eyes or gentle smile, but a fragment, her analyses, aelith memories, and a brief recording. Her voice rang out, sharp yet warm. "If you hear this, Renn, I did what I wanted. Don't stop. Not for me, but for them, for everyone who deserves freedom." Renn sat still, tears streaking his face, but a smile broke through. It wasn't Veyra, but a seed of hope, her voice whispering in the wind, urging him on. He stored the data in a small aelith crystal, wearing it beside Lira's ring, a vow to carry her forward. That night, by a fire, the community gathered, but not all eyes shone with hope. A young hybrid stood, eyes dull, voice shaking but sharp. "We're free, but what now? Krenath took so much, I don't know who I am." Silence fell, cold as the breeze. Renn rose, hand on his Aelith crystal, voice steady. "None of us know fully. But we'll find out together." The crowd nodded, but the youth's gaze wavered. Later, in Firelight's cockpit, a strange signal flickered, not Veyra's, but an old Krenath marker, faint yet alive, like a ghost's breath. Renn shut it off, heart heavy, knowing freedom always had a price. Days passed, the community growing. Hybrids spoke of Veyra, an interface who broke chains, not just for herself but for thousands. They carved her name on a boulder in the fields, purple crystal light glinting under the letters, an eternal flame. Renn stood before it, Lira at his side, and for the first time in years he felt lighter, as if the past was no longer a blade but a wind pushing him forward. One night, under a blazing nebula, Renn and Lira sat on the porch, starlight like silver rain. Lira leaned on his shoulder, her metal arm cold, but her warmth enough to thaw him. "We did something right, didn't we?" she asked, voice soft as breeze. Renn looked up, a star brighter, like Veyra's red eyes watching. "We'll keep going," he said, smiling, voice firm as stone. "For her. For everyone." The community gathered around a fire, golden light mingling with purple crystal glow. Voices rose, not in victory, but in homecoming, souls finding rest. Renn stood among them, ring and crystal at his chest, his scarred heart still beating strong. The house on the hill stood small but unyielding, a flame that wouldn't die under the nebula's shadow. The silver field swayed, and somewhere, Renn heard Veyra's whisper, saying freedom was worth dying for, and worth living for.